What's up, everybody? Good to see y'all again. Thank you for tuning in to another video with your man Black Gad. As usual, how everybody else says, like, comment, and subscribe down below. Hit that notification bell so that you can get a heads up when I post a new video. So today, roll this window up, get rid of that nice cool breeze. What we're gonna be talking about is my independent contractor diaries, basically. Why did I make the choice to go 1099? Going a little bit more in detail, including some pros and cons, things that you can do to help make sure that you succeed when you do this. Coming right up. Alright, so we're going to hop right into it. See? Y'all thought I was going to edit this in and put something very interesting, a nice little transition there. Yeah, I don't do all that because, I keep my videos 7 minutes minimal, usually 7 to 15. I keep them very short because we got things to do with our time. So, first things first is how to choose a person that you're going to contract to. Now, this one is a very broad topic because if you're going to be picky and choosy, you're not going to get no work. So, you got to put yourself out there. You're going to have to choose someone eventually. You're going to have to take a risk with people. That being said, when you take that risk, you need to make sure that you have a written contract on what you're going to do. What is it that you're going to be doing, what your job entails, and what is your rate going to be for that job? How much are you going to get paid? Because, believe it or not, there are people that will have you work and not pay you. Okay, if you think that there are people that won't sit there and use you and have you work and not pay you, you're a fool. All right, if they can get away with saving some grands, they're gonna do it. So now, in making a contract, you can start off on a verbal contract, but you do need to have some form of written contract before you go in, whether it's text messages, emails, a full-blown page contract. It doesn't have to be something elaborate. Page, maybe 2. All it has to detail is I, such and such, will agree to pay such and such at this rate per hour or per load or whatever, however you want to word it. So, in that contract, you need to set your boundaries. You need to make sure that you have a definite boundary of when you're working, how long you're working, how many days you're working. You can have it set up for how long this contract is going to be. If you want to do a 30-day contract and then reevaluate your situation, if you want to do 90 days, a year, or whatever, you need to make sure that you have that in that contract. That way you're good to go. Now, if those boundaries are broken, you're out because they break the contract, you're good to go. But if you break the contract, you're screwed, basically, because you are the one that is coming for the work. You're not the one that owns the truck or anything like that. And if you do own the truck, that's a different topic that we'll get into later. Now, when you negotiate your pay for said contract, you have to remember either you don't have the experience that you think you do, you don't have the equipment that you need because you're using someone else's, or you have both. Like I said, that's going to be another video that goes into lease operators or owner operators. Right now, we're just looking at poor old Joe man like myself hopping into someone else's truck. You need to balance out how much it is that you want to make for how much you're going to work. I'm not going to sit there and say I want $200 a load and I'm only going to work 4 days a week, because I'm not going to get that. Now, if I say I want $150 a load and I'm going to work 6 days a week, that's a lot more reasonable. Whereas if I was to be like, give me 142, 140, that's, 24% of most loads, 25%. That's lower or a little bit low budget on what some other people will charge. Now, I know with me, I can do that and I can make $2-3 grand a week doing that because I know how I work. I know how I run and how I operate and still keep my clock good. Now, that's another thing is that you can also, in negotiating you pay, you can let them know, like, hey, look, my CSA score is good. I've got this endorsement, that endorsement. You want to sell yourself. That helps you to negotiate your pay. Now, going into your pay, you're going to have to pay your own taxes. So because of that, you need to save every single receipt. What I do personally is that I have manila envelopes. I have the big ones for like the 10x11s and then the small ones like a 3x5. I take all my receipts from that month, put them in the 3x5. Then I take all of my load receipts, which is every load that I've done. I send it in and I have a confirmation number. I put that in the big envelope. Once the month ends, I combine those 2 envelopes and I mail them home. That way I have a copy and a receipt of everything that I spent. It's broken down: food, entertainment, clothing, truck expenses, miscellaneous, whatever. And I have my income also on that same form. So I know how much I made, how much I spent. That tells me what it is that I am averaging for the month, or I can do that per week. I prefer to do it per month because my bills are monthly. It makes more sense for me to say, okay, I made 10 grand this month. I spent $2,000 in food and clothing this month, just on, or whatever. I know that's a ridiculously high number, but when you look at FR gear at $100 a shirt, it can get up there, or pants or something. Like this outfit that I got, it's a onesie, it's $170. So if I buy 2 or 3 of these for the month to get me going, or if I have to replace something, that can shoot your cost up. If you're buying fuel, that can shoot your cost up. But like I said, buying fuel and things, that goes into lease and owner operator. We'll get into that in another video. Now, leaving bad contracts. All right, you will have a bad contract. You will have a bad contractor. Well, technically, you're the contractor, so if you have a bad contractor, you need to stop being a 1099. But you will have moments when you need to leave the person that you're working for. That being said, you get to choose whether you want to do it professionally or not. If that person is screwing you over, it's up to you if you're going to give them 2 weeks. It's up to you if you're going to give them 24 hours or abandon their truck, which, let me tell you, never abandon a truck. That is the fastest way to get your trucking career ruined. You will get blacklisted. You won't get any work. Everyone's going to know that you're a piece of shit. You do not want to abandon the truck. If it comes down to where you have to leave a truck, swipe the fuel card, fill that sucker up, drive it to their yard, and drop it off there. Leave the keys inside with a dispatcher or a manager. If you can't do that, fill up, get as close as you can to home, drop that truck off at the sheriff department with the keys. Let them know you work for such and such, you stopped working for them, you're turning their truck in, and they won't come get it. They need to come get it. What that does is it covers your behind from being known to abandon trucks, because you don't want to do that. All right, straight up, you don't. So, that's one way that you can leave a bad contract. Now, if you do that, you want to make sure that you leave that contract. You don't want to leave in the middle of the week. It just makes it harder on you. Leave at the end or at the beginning of whatever pay period is coming. Typically, what I will do is if I'm going to leave a job, and this is more than just 1099, this is with all the jobs I've ever had, I usually leave on a Friday or I leave on a Monday, because that way it makes it easier for me to calculate what it is I'm going to be owed in so many weeks. Most places you have to work 2 weeks in the hole. So it's like, all right, I know I'm going to have 2 solid weeks coming instead of 2 weeks and then like a check for $30. All right, it's just not worth it for me. Plus, if I'm trying to leave, I'm going to make sure I enjoy some home time or a weekend at home before I hit the road again with my next contract. That is another thing, is that when you leave a contract, you want to make sure you can get another one very soon. You want to make sure that you have enough reputation or enough reputable contracts that people can contact to say, how do you work? How do you do this? How do you run this? And you want to say, you're going to have to sell yourself all over again. So you want to make sure that all your stuff is lined up and on point, because you don't want to get screwed over because you're lazy, basically. And once again, if you're lazy, 1099 ain't for you. Go back to company, man, or get out of the truck in general, because you can't be lazy doing this work. All right, especially doing sand. You can't be lazy doing it. It just is what it is. Now, we're going to get into the nice list, the breakdown, the pros and cons of 1099 work. I'm going to list the cons because everybody knows the cons. Everybody wants to say, oh, you got to pay your own taxes. One con. It's high-risk contracts because you never know what you're going to get into. Well, that's trucking in general, so that's 2. You are working usually for owner-operators or lease operators, which means the equipment may not be up to par. It might be harder to get repairs done. It might take longer to get those repairs done. These are all things you have to account for. It's also much harder to get home. If you need to shoot home for something, a lot of owner-operators, it makes it more difficult, as opposed to a company having, 15, 20 people that can replace your run immediately. Because you got to look at, like, your owner-operator might be in Florida. The person you work for might be in another country or something. They might be a few states away. And then you have to try and coordinate with them and the company that you're not going to be there. So it does make it a little bit more difficult. Not impossible, but a bit more difficult. It can also be harder to keep you running, harder to keep you working, because if the equipment fails and the owner-operator does not want to pay for said equipment right now, you're going to be sitting. It's usually not like with the company where if the truck goes down, you can hop into another one, or they're going to get the part fixed right now because they have the money and the collateral in 5 or 6 other trucks that they can pull from. It's usually 1 or 2 trucks. If something goes wrong, you're going to be sitting for a while until they get it fixed. They get that situated. Now, that being said, you have to rely on individual people to pay you. That can be a big determining factor, because if you're a company man, they got payroll, they got HR, you can make a phone call, something goes wrong, so on and so on, yada, yada, yada. Whereas if you're contracting to individual people, you're relying on that one person to make sure your payroll is straight, to make sure that your money ain't funny. That can be a major turnoff if you don't have your contracts right. Now, some of the pros. We're going to get into the pros, because everybody like the good stuff. Everybody like to know how much money you making. What you running, fool? How much money, how many duckies you collecting, right? Them greenbacks, them stacks. So, when you are 1099, you make a lot more money, all right? Because I don't have taxes coming out of my check. I don't have company fees coming out of my check. I don't have equipment rental coming out of my check. I don't have uniform stuff coming out of my check, because I have my own. I bring my own with me, so that allows me to make more money. On average, if you're paying your company, if you're working, then you got to pay back for uniforms or something, or you got to pay back for gear. For one, that's an OSHA violation. So, little tip, do what you will with that. 2, you're probably losing about $100 a month, maybe even more. It might be $100 a week. You're losing that to a company that you're already working for. So you're working, getting paid, and then they're like, you're going to pay us back. Not with 1099. I ain't dealing with that bullshit. Next one is that it's a lot more flexibility. In your contracts, you should have it written up and known when you're going to work, where you're going to work, how much you're going to work, so on and so on. If you're not going to work a day, you're not going to work a day. A lot of times, if you're good and you run hard and you're a good contractor, all it takes is a phone call or a text to whoever it is that you work for, let them know, I ain't going to be here. I can't work this day. I can't do that day. I need time. I got to be off. I got to do this and that. And it helps you, all right? That flexibility also goes into what you run. It gives you different experience, a wider range of experience on things that you can learn and things that you can do. Now, there are also less company restrictions. Now, this is a gray area. So, following things that come out of my mouth, take what you will. I don't recommend many of them, but take what you will. I know people that run doubles. I know people that run without a clock. They run 2-3 book logs because they can. That is a high risk that you are taking to make a few extra $100. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. Do people do it? All the time. Do I do it? No, because it ain't worth it. All right? I can make more money, more consistent money running my clock like I'm supposed to than someone that runs doubles all week and then crashes for 3 or 4 days. Or someone that runs doubles and they fall asleep and miss their roll call. Yeah, it is what it is. Now with that, sometimes I know people, they don't have, sorry about that, getting some notifications. They don't have clocks in their truck. They don't have e-logs. They don't have, you don't have to go through scale houses a lot of the times, you know, depending on where you run and what you run. You may not have to do pre-trips or vehicle inspection reports or trailer inspection reports all the time, because you're running trucks that are beat up already. You're running trucks that aren't being traded out or aren't being looked at very strictly. So, like I said, all those things is iffy. I don't recommend doing them, but I know people that do. Okay, it works for some, not for all. Now, another thing with being an independent contractor is there are multiple levels to this. And you can switch from level to level very easily. So, what that means is that if you are, like me, a base level 1099 employee, and I say base level because I don't own any equipment yet, that's level 1. Level 2 is going to be a lease operator. Level 3 is an owner operator. Now, each level grants you different things. For instance, if I'm leasing a truck, I know the company I'm with, if I lease, it's going to be about $1,250 a week. That's $1,250 a week to lease a truck. That is the equipment for the truck. That is insurances. That is license plates. Everything I need to run. That being said, that bumps up my pay from about $2,000 to $6,000 a week because you're making that payment. Now, if you come here and you own a truck, that means that you're now an owner-operator. You're going to usually make 75%, 70%. If you own the truck and the trailer, you're making even more. But you're still contracting to these places, so you are still going to pay your own taxes. They're going to pay you a settlement. You pay your own taxes usually. There are some companies that will allow you to run under them, under their authority and everything, and you can pay taxes through them. But nah, if I'm going to own my truck and my trailer, I'm paying my own taxes when I feel like it. All right, I'm not going to have someone else do that. So, lastly with this is that you can switch back and forth easily. You can switch from 1099 to company. You can switch from 1099 to lease operator. You can take a walkaway lease. You can buy your equipment and go owner operator. You can put someone else in the truck and still be a 1099. You can do all these things with it. It allows a lot of flexibility. That's part of the flexibility. It allows you to do a lot of things. But I am about at 16 minutes, so I am out of time officially. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.